Hi Paolo, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Good.
I'm good. I want to start by just saying how much I loved the exhibition last year when I went. I was there for about 2 hours. I probably could have stayed all day if I'd had the time. And I know you worked very closely with them to put this together and create a very specific feeling and experience. I wanted to talk about that in relation to Studio Luce and the studio as a space for you. What specifically about Studio Luce has kept you working there for so long? You've been there for about 40 years, is that right?
Yes, about 40 years. Yes. The most special thing is the light that came from the window, enter the north light. It's not sun, it's just diffused light, and I love that. Principal reason I love this place. Then now is like my home, you know. I come here almost every day. I have my staff here, my team, that is like a family, because they're with me since many, many years too. So it's a very familiar place, you know, it's not like a studio you can imagine in New York, where it's cold and everything is technical. Here is not like this. Here it's more very artisanal. Come on, here.
I read something which I thought was interesting. You said you used to be a little bit scared of the light. And I wondered, were you ever scared of the dark as a child?
When I was a child, I was scared of dark, and that's why I became friend with light. I was looking for any little light to eclaircir my darkness. Really, my first images, you know, and they were very phantomatic. Like my pictures now I didn't know was angel, demons, and ghosts. My imagination going through these images, you know. And now in my studio is the same. It's all about dream, imagination, and spirit. I mean, for fashion photography, the fashion is very, very important. It's not just an accessory. For me, a fashion photography is like a double portrait. It's a portrait of a woman. Magic is coming from the harmony between these two.
Why fashion? Because I think it's interesting, some of the references and influences in the history of photography that you come from. Obviously, Nadar and Julia Cameron, those amazing kind of studio photographers, but also portraitists.
Really by chance, when I arrived to Paris, I didn't know anything about fashion, really. It was completely ignorant about fashion. And then I met people working in fashion, and by chance they introduced me to the fashion world, showed me the fashion magazine. I met fashion photographers. Step by step, I entered in this world, and I was fascinated by this world. I felt that fashion photography was a kind of photography for imagination, for free, and for dream. So I like it then.
There's something in your images which connects back also to that history that you come from. This ephemeral nature of the image, of the photograph itself, and that imagination that you bring to making this image of someone and an object in this kind of world that's only accessible through that image. You said previously that photography for you is the art of nostalgia. And I wondered what you are nostalgic for, if anything, or how you feel about nostalgia.
First of all, photography for me is always a portrait. And the portrait, if you do this with your art, it's always a self-portrait too, you know. And I am a nostalgic person, so the nostalgia is always there. It is not in purpose, it's really in my subconscious, you know.
Guinevere said that you've managed to maintain this magical relationship with time and space. Do you like that idea that perhaps these images hover in this timelessness? You create this kind of moment that's completely of its own.
The two fundamental elements of photography are time and space. I can't define exactly what reality is, you know. And for me, the border between reality and not is very, very thin, and it's difficult to explain for me that. But for sure, photography is not reality, it's something else. It's another world, another dimension.
When you were working on this exhibition, did you have a specific idea in mind about how you wanted to make visitors feel and the sort of space that you wanted to create?
I worked with a very, very good set designer.
Anya, right?
Marchenko, yes.
Yeah.
And she helped me a lot. She understood completely my work. She came to visit my studio many times, and she tried to translate this atmosphere of my studio in this exhibition. And I think her translation was very successful. For me, all I tried was to be honest, to be sincere, and not to try to represent something I'm not.
I want to go back quickly to that idea of the studio and the studio portrait and divorcing the object and the person of outside context. And in a way, you get that context through the story that comes through the clothes and the person. But what is it about the liberation of the studio space? Why is the studio for you the most liberating place as a photographer?
The studio for me is like a theater, and it's like an abstraction. I like when I take a picture of a subject, not an addition, but a subtraction, and to take away all of the things around are not interesting for me. I can isolate my subject completely from the rest of the world and to let my subject to become the center of the world.
And that connection to your subject is so important. Am I right in thinking that you don't necessarily direct their poses or give them a story in a sense? You kind of start by letting them see how they want to take up the space in the studio. How does that relationship work?
Every time is different, there are not rules. It depends on the spirit of the day, the humor of the day. Sometimes the model arrives in the studio, she's very happy. Sometimes she's sad. I don't really have a story in mind. I adapt myself to the mood of the day, to the light of the day, to the state of mind of the girl of the day.
Kirsten Owen told Nick when she did a conversation with him for us last year that once you took some amber out of your pocket for her to smell before you started shooting, and she remembers it very viscerally as you creating this atmosphere and experience. And I wondered, do you have kind of smells in the studio? Do you burn candles? Do you have fragrances? What's the kind of atmosphere like?
Sometimes it's the perfume, sometimes it's the music. I'm always try to bring a certain atmosphere just with my voice. I talk with my strange voice, and the music is very important for me, yes, and for the ambience.
I've also heard wonderful things about the lunches on your shoots. Do you like cooking?
Yes, I like cooking, but I don't cook in the studio. I have no time.
I can't imagine. That would be quite incredible.
The lunch is very important always, and it's a moment of convivence.
Well, thank you for your time, Paolo. It's such an honour and pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you for calling me.